It was a Tuesday night when Daniela dropped the bomb, the one that blew up our entire marriage. I had just walked in, dead tired from pulling a double shift at the construction company. My boots were still dusted with concrete, and my whole body ached. I found the house in total chaos. Dirty dishes were stacked in the sink, days worth. Laundry was spilling out of the hamper. And there she was, sprawled on the couch, glued to her phone, a wine glass in her hand. "Hey, honey, what happened today? Didn't you have a chance to straighten up a little?" I asked, trying to sound gentle, trying so hard not to sound critical. She didn't even bother to look up from her screen. "I don't have to cook, clean, or even sleep with you," she said. Her voice was flat, an absolute zero. The coldness of it went straight to my gut. "I'm not your servant anymore, Martin. Those days are officially over." I just froze in the doorway, completely paralyzed. I couldn't process what I'd just heard. Daniela finally lifted her eyes, and there was no anger in them, no sadness, just a blank indifference that cut me deeper than any shouting ever could. "I'm sick of this mediocre marriage," she continued, taking a slow sip of wine. "I deserve so much more than this. More than this life, more than you." I'm Martin. I'm 34. Up until that exact moment, I had genuinely believed we had a rock-solid marriage. Daniela and I had been married for 7 years, together since we were kids at 23. We met in college. She was bright and bubbly, studying interior design. I was a focused civil engineering student. God, I fell head over heels for her contagious laugh, for the way she lit up every single room, for all those big dreams she had about opening her own design studio someday. The first few years, they were like a dream. We lived in a tiny but cozy apartment. We split the chores. We cooked dinner together on the weekends. We planned our future. Daniela worked at a firm while I fought my way up the ranks at the construction company. We truly felt like a team. That's what I believed anyway. 3 years ago, when I finally saved up enough to buy our house, a beautiful 2-story place on the edge of the city, I thought we were finally building our legacy. Daniela quit her job soon after. She said she needed time to focus on personal projects, to eventually launch her studio. I backed her all the way, happy that my salary could support our home while she chased her goals. But months slipped into a year. That studio never happened. Her personal projects turned into endless TV marathons, expensive lunches with friends, and online shopping sprees that made our credit card bills terrifying. At first, I tried to be patient. Maybe she just needed time to find her footing. But the beautiful house we used to share slowly fell into disarray. My home-cooked meals were replaced by takeout I grabbed on the way back from work. Our real conversations became nothing but tired, one-word replies. I tried to talk to her so many times. "Daniela, sweetie, is everything all right? You seem so distant," I'd say. Her answer was always a wall. "I'm fine, Martin. I just need my space." Space. That single word became the entire theme of our marriage. Space in our bed, where we now slept miles apart. Space in the house, where we could go hours without a single real word. An emotional chasm that just kept growing between us. That Tuesday night, after her brutal declaration, I could only stare at her, speechless. "What on earth are you talking about, Daniela?" I finally managed to force out. She let out a huge, theatrical sigh, as if explaining it all was the biggest chore. "I spoke to my therapist," she said, and that was the first time I'd ever heard she had a therapist. "She helped me realize I've been living under all these oppressive, traditional norms. I don't have to fill those stupid gender roles just because we're married." "But this has nothing to do with gender roles," I shot back, feeling pure frustration starting to rage. "This is about sharing the load in our own home. I'm working 12-hour days, sometimes more, and I come home to this absolute mess." "Exactly," she said, nodding, as if I'd just proved her point for her. "You work because you want to. You chose that path. I chose a different one. I chose to prioritize myself, my mental health, my personal growth." I collapsed into the armchair. The weight of 7 years of my life seemed to crush me. "And what about our marriage? What about us?" I asked, my voice cracking. Daniela finally put her phone down and looked right at me. "Martin, be honest. When was the last time we had a real connection? We've been nothing but roommates for months." And she wasn't wrong. But the part she was missing, or refusing to see, was that she had created that distance. I was still fighting, still coming home hoping to find the woman I married, but she was long gone. "I need you to give me space," she went on, already picking her phone back up. "I'm going to sleep in the guest room, and I expect you to respect my boundaries. No more expectations about dinner, cleaning, or intimacy. When I'm ready to connect, if that ever happens, I'll let you know." She stood up and walked away, heading upstairs without a single backward glance. I was left alone in the living room, surrounded by her mess and that awful silence. In that moment, something deep inside me shattered and reformed. It wasn't instant anger or even the sharp, stabbing pain of being rejected. It was something cold, something calculated, a clarity that was sharp as broken glass. I stood up slowly, scanning the house that I had bought, that I maintained, that I paid for every single month. I looked at the expensive sectional she'd picked out, the massive TV she had to have, the fancy drapes that cost more than my truck. all funded by my salary while she was finding herself. I went to the closet in the master bedroom, which, apparently, was now my room only, and pulled out the file box with our important documents. I took out the bank statements, utility bills, and credit card receipts. I spent the next 3 hours poring over every single expense, every transaction. The things I found made me feel physically sick. In the past 6 months alone, Daniela had burned through over $20,000 on private shopping, salon treatments, extravagant dinners with her friends, gym memberships she never used, and online courses she never finished. All of this while I worked until I saw double to keep our life afloat. But then I saw something else, something that made my stomach absolutely drop. Buried in the recurring expenses were multiple payments to local hotels. These weren't for some weekend trip we took. These were single-room reservations on random weekdays. Why did my stay-at-home wife need hotel rooms? I opened her laptop, which she'd carelessly left on the nightstand. I didn't have to look far. Her email was loaded with reservation confirmations, and something far worse, messages. Hundreds of messages with someone named Ricardo. My heart started hammering so hard I could hear the pulse in my ears as I started reading. They weren't just friendly chats. They were intimate. They were romantic. They were graphic. "I can't wait to see you tomorrow, my love," she had written just 3 days ago. "Martin's working late again. We'll have the whole afternoon to ourselves." The puzzle pieces clicked into place with a brutal, sickening finality. The therapist who freed her from tradition, the mystery hotel bills, the sudden need for distance, and the absolute refusal of intimacy with me. This had all been one massive, elaborate cover story for her affair. I kept reading, feeling each message like a physical blow. Ricardo was a yoga instructor. Of course, Daniela had started taking those classes about 8 months ago. Another expense on my credit card that I'd happily approved, thinking it was a healthy thing for her to do. It had turned into this. "I'll be able to leave him soon," she wrote in a text from 2 weeks earlier. "I just need to make sure the divorce is perfect and I get half of everything, including the house. Then we can finally be together without hiding." So she already had a lawyer. She was already planning the divorce. She had already calculated how much she could steal from me. And all the while, she'd played the victim, the long-suffering wife who needed to escape her oppressive husband. In reality, I was just the idiot who was funding her betrayal. I closed the laptop gently, struggling to keep my hands from shaking. Part of me screamed to run upstairs and rip her out of that guest room, to show her the evidence and demand a confession. But that other part, the cold, calculating part that had just woken up, stopped me. If Daniela wanted to play a dirty game, if she already had a lawyer and a blueprint to financially ruin me, then I had to be smarter. I couldn't let her know what I'd found. Not yet. I needed my own plan. I went back downstairs and started snapping photos of everything. The bank statements, the emails, the dirty messages with Ricardo, the hotel bookings, every shred of evidence of her cheating and her plot. Then I put everything back perfectly, exactly as it was. It was 3 a.m. when I finally sank onto the couch. I was too devastated and tired to face the bed. The woman sleeping upstairs was no longer my wife. She was a stranger who'd been living a massive lie at my expense. I had been too blind, too trusting, too naive to see it. But that was over. If Daniela wanted to prove who paid for everything, if she wanted a one-sided marriage where she took and took without ever giving, she was about to learn a very painful lesson about consequences. I grabbed my phone and started searching for divorce attorneys. I needed the best. Someone who specialized in ugly asset division and infidelity. I found a certain Dr. Elena Vargas. Her online bio finished with a punchy tagline. "I don't let cheaters get away with it." Perfect. I booked an appointment for the next day, right during my lunch break. Then, meticulously, I started my list. Change all my passwords, secretly separate our bank accounts, document every financial detail, and, most importantly, get the hell out of her path. Daniela wanted her freedom. She wanted to be free from the oppressive norms of marriage while keeping all the financial perks. She was about to find out that true freedom comes with a price tag she couldn't afford. I laid down on the couch, the mess around me fading into the darkness. As I finally closed my eyes, one thought was crystal clear. A new life starts tomorrow, and Daniela is going to regret the day she ever decided to betray me. I woke up the next morning feeling physically numb from sleeping on that awful couch. It was 5:30 a.m., my usual time. Out of pure habit, I almost walked upstairs to our master bedroom, but I stopped myself, remembering her little decree. The whole thing was ludicrous. I was an intruder in the house I paid for. I showered in the downstairs bathroom, got dressed in clothes I'd salvaged from the laundry basket, and made my coffee in absolute silence. I looked at the kitchen. The dishes were still there, the food scraps now hard and crusty. Normally, I would have cleaned it all before leaving, just to keep the peace. But not today. I took my coffee and walked out, leaving the mess exactly where it was. Before the door clicked shut, I left a note on the kitchen table. "Daniela, working late tonight. Don't wait up for dinner. Martin." Short, cold, and missing the love or honey I always used to add. It was the first move in my new strategy, giving her all the space she wanted, until it was impossible for her to crawl back. At work, concentrating was a nightmare. I was managing a huge office complex build, a project that usually demanded 100% of my focus. But my brain kept replaying those sick messages, her divorce blueprint, her cynical planning. During my morning break, I called Dr. Vargas. "I need to see you today, if there's any way possible," I pleaded, quickly summarizing the core of my problem. "My wife is plotting a divorce behind my back, and I have rock-solid proof of infidelity." There was a brief silence on the line. "I can fit you in at 1 p.m. Bring every piece of evidence you have, especially the financial records and the proof of the affair." At 1 o'clock, I was sitting across from Dr. Elena Vargas. She was a woman in her 50s with a sharp, no-nonsense look that instantly made me feel safer. We spent 2 hours going through everything. I showed her the printed emails, the text with Ricardo, the credit card spending, the hotel receipts, all of it. "Your wife has been incredibly sloppy," Dr. Vargas stated, her pen flying across her notepad. "She left a massive digital trail. The fact that she already has a lawyer working to fleece you, all while hiding her intentions, is evidence of profound bad faith. This is a huge advantage for us." "What do I do now?" I asked, feeling a sliver of control returning for the first time in days. "The first rule is, do not confront her yet," Dr. Vargas commanded. "We need time to load the gun. In the meantime, I need you to do several things. 1. Open a brand new bank account in your name only and start routing your entire paycheck there. 2. Document everything. Every conversation, every shared expense, every instance of her bizarre behavior. And 3. I want you to install security cameras in the common areas of your home." "Cameras?" I stammered, surprised. "It's legal, so long as they're in shared rooms, not bathrooms or bedrooms. If your wife is bringing her lover into the home you are paying for, we need visual proof. Text can be argued away as fantasy. Video of them together in your living room is game over." I left that meeting with a clear, specific task list, and, for the first time since that terrible Tuesday, a sense of purpose. Daniela thought she was playing chess while I wasn't even at the table. But the rules had just changed. That afternoon, before I drove home, I hit an electronics store and bought 4 tiny, discrete security cameras with audio recording. They were perfect for going unnoticed. I also opened the new bank account and rerouted my next paycheck. When I got home around 8 p.m., Daniela was exactly where I'd left her, on the couch with her phone and wine. The only difference? The house was somehow even worse. She hadn't just neglected the cleaning, she'd added to the filth. Takeout containers, sticky glasses, magazines everywhere. "Hi," I said, void of any feeling. She didn't look up. "Hi," she returned, equally cold. I walked straight past her and up to the master bedroom. I grabbed more of my clothes and essentials and moved them to the guest room. If it was going to be my corner now, I'd make it livable. Daniela said nothing about my move. For the next 3 days, we lived a cold, mechanical life. I got up, made my coffee, and left without speaking to her. I came back late, ate the food I'd bought myself, and retreated to the guest room. Daniela spent her days doing nothing productive, occasionally going out for yoga or lunch with friends, euphemisms I now saw through completely. That Friday afternoon, while she was out, I installed the cameras, one in the living room, one in the kitchen, a third in the dining room, and the last one aimed down the main hallway, all linked to a special app on my phone. I felt a momentary pang of shame, like a creep invading privacy. But then I remembered the messages with Ricardo, their plans to ruin me, and all the guilt evaporated. I didn't have to wait long. The following Monday, I took an afternoon off work, telling my boss I had a family emergency. In reality, I parked my car 2 blocks from the house and opened the camera feed. At 2 p.m., Daniela walked in the front door. She wasn't alone. A skinny guy with a man bun and tight yoga clothes followed her. Ricardo. My wife had brought her lover into our home, the one I paid for, in the middle of the day while I was supposed to be working. I watched them move through the living room. They were so comfortable, so familiar with the space. Daniela was laughing at something he said, a genuine, carefree laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in over a year. He pulled her close and kissed her, a long, ugly kiss that turned my stomach. Then they headed up the stairs, straight for the master bedroom, my room, our marital bed. I slammed the app shut. I had everything I needed. Clear, time-stamped, visual proof of her adultery in my own damn house. I drove back to work in a total fog of pure, white-hot rage, tempered only by a renewed, icy determination. That night, when I got home at my usual time, Daniela was back on the couch, acting as if nothing had happened. The house smelled faintly of a men's cologne that wasn't mine, the final, brazen insult. "How was your day?" I asked, forcing a gentle smile, playing the role of the oblivious husband. "Oh, boring as usual," she replied, not looking up. "Just met the girls for a quick lunch. Spent the rest of the day here. Liar, cynic, schemer, and utterly clueless that I knew every detail of her betrayal." "Good that you got out," I said, keeping my tone light. "It's important to socialize." She finally looked at me, surprised by my easygoing acceptance. "Yes, it's vital for my mental well-being." The next few weeks were a masterclass in emotional acting on my part. While I played the sad, resigned husband on the outside, I was meticulously building a fortress of evidence on the inside. I recorded 6 separate visits from Ricardo over the next 2 weeks. I captured their conversations in the living room, where they openly discussed their future, how she'd take half the house in the divorce, and how I was a naive fool who'd never suspect a thing. Every word was a knife twist, but it was also solid gold evidence. Dr. Vargas reviewed it all with professional glee. "Your wife is practically signing her own confession," she told me. "When we finally file with all this proof, she won't just fail to get half the assets. She could end up legally liable for the money she fraudulently spent." "When do we strike?" I demanded, desperate to end the charade. "Not yet. Let her dig deeper. The more confident she is, the more brutal the impact will be when it all crashes down. I need a little more time to finalize the asset documentation." "The house is only in my name, right? The down payment was from my personal account." I checked. "Correct. And the car, too, since you bought it as a gift." Dr. Vargas gave me a tight smile. "Your wife made a classic mistake, Martin. She confused a privilege with a right. She's lived so lavishly on your income that she truly believes she's entitled to half of everything. The reality is going to be a shock." But it wasn't just lawyer meetings and spying. My personal life was slowly starting to heal. The crushing pain of the betrayal started to morph into something else, an acceptance that the marriage I thought I had was just a fantasy. One night, eating dinner alone at a restaurant, the waitress, Patricia, struck up a conversation. She was warm. She had a genuine, kind smile. And for the first time in months, I actually laughed. It was just 20 minutes, but it was a lifeline, a reminder that the world existed outside those 4 walls of lies. I started staying out later, avoiding the house. Not just working, but going to the gym, which I'd abandoned years ago. I reconnected with old friends. I was slowly starting to rebuild a life that didn't revolve around a wife who despised me. Daniela didn't seem to notice any of it. Or if she did, she didn't care. She was too wrapped up in her affair, in her plans, in her fantasy of a perfect, wealthy future with Ricardo. 3 weeks after I discovered the truth, she texted me at 10 a.m. "We need to talk tonight. It's important." My heart pounded. Had she found the cameras? Did she know I knew? I immediately called Dr. Vargas. "Stay calm," she instructed. "She's going to file for divorce herself. This is perfect. It means she's showing her cards first. You act shocked, hurt, but non-confrontational. Tell her you need time to process. Do not sign a single paper, and record the entire conversation on your phone." That night, I got home at 7 o'clock. Daniela was waiting in the dining room, not her usual spot on the couch. She was dressed up, with full makeup, clearly prepared for a major performance. A bottle of wine and 2 glasses were set out. "Martin, please sit down," she said, trying to sound soft, but failing to hide her nerves. I sat down across from her, my phone securely recording in my pocket. I poured us both some wine. "I think we'll need it for this conversation." "What's going on?" I asked, playing the worried, unsuspecting husband. She took a huge, theatrical breath and reached for my hand. The contact felt repulsive, but I allowed it. "Martin, I've been doing so much soul-searching about our life, about our marriage, about who I am and what I really want. And I think," she trailed off, trying to gauge my reaction. I remained completely silent. "I've realized that we both deserve to be truly happy," she finally continued. "But I just don't think we can find that happiness together anymore." She paused again, waiting for the tears, the screaming. I gave her nothing. "I want a divorce, Martin," she blurted out. "I think it's the best thing for both of us. We've just grown apart." I waited another long, agonizing moment, performing the shock of a man whose world has just ended. In reality, I was just waiting for the next line. "Is there someone else?" I asked, my voice fake trembling for the audio. Daniela had the decency to blush and look away. "Yes, I met someone. It wasn't planned, it just happened. But it made me realize our marriage has been dead for a long, long time." "Who is he?" I pressed. "His name is Ricardo. He's a yoga instructor. Martin, please know this isn't your fault. We're just incompatible. That's all." I stood up, walked to the window, and turned my back on her, keeping my expression hidden from her eyes. "I can't believe this," I said, my voice heavy with staged heartbreak. 7 years, Daniela. 7 years of our lives. "I know. I'm so sorry. But dragging this out would only cause more pain. I've already spoken to a lawyer. We can do this cleanly, Martin. Just an equal division of the assets, no drama. We both move on with our lives." "Equal division," I repeated, turning back to face her. "The house, the car, the savings. Split down the middle. It's only fair, Martin. We both contributed to this marriage." The sheer audacity of the lie almost made me laugh out loud. Contributed? She contributed nothing but debt and deceit. "I need time to think," I said. "This is a lot to process." "Of course," Daniela replied, relief washing over her face. She thought she'd won. My calmness had completely disarmed her. "Take all the time you need. In the meantime, I think it's best if you stay in the guest room." That night, lying alone in the guest room, I reviewed the entire recording. Her entire performance, every fake tear, every calculated word, was perfectly preserved. Daniela had just handed me the final, necessary piece of evidence. The next day, I brought the audio to Dr. Vargas. "Perfect," she declared, her eyes gleaming. "She admits to the affair on record, and she's demanding a 50-50 split when she hasn't contributed financially in years. We have everything we need. It's time to counterattack." "What's the next step?" "We are going to teach your wife what a real divorce looks like, and I promise you, it's not going to be the civilized split she's hoping for." Dr. Vargas outlined a strategy that was as devastating as it was meticulous. "We're going to let your wife think she has a small window of control left. While she basks in that false sense of security, you are going to seemingly cooperate with her demands," she instructed. "Cooperate? How does that help us?" I asked, confused. "Trust me, Martin. We want her to drop her guard completely. If you look defeated but resigned, she'll assume she's the one in charge. This will only encourage her to make more mistakes that we can use against her." It was brilliant, even if the thought of continuing the lie was physically draining. "How long do I keep this up?" 2 to 3 weeks, tops. I need that time to finalize the legal assault. I need to research every asset, every detail, so that when we drop the bomb, it's an absolute knockout." For the next few days, I played the part of the sad, defeated husband perfectly. I nodded sadly when Daniela talked about the divorce. I feigned resignation when she discussed the division of assets. We even had a conversation where she, with truly nauseating generosity, told me I could keep some of the living room furniture because I know you're attached to them. But while I played the victim, my real life was blossoming in incredible ways. I started going back to the local gym, where I reconnected with my old college buddy, Fernando. He'd gone through a nasty divorce 2 years prior and understood everything I was feeling. "The best thing I ever did was focus 100% on myself," he told me after a workout. "Divorce is a fork in the road, man. It can either destroy you completely or be the thing that forces you to build a stronger you. You get to choose." His words hit me hard. For the first time in years, I was seeing myself as an individual, not just Daniela's husband or the provider. I picked up old hobbies. On the weekends, while Daniela was off with Ricardo thinking I was home moping, I was out at industry conferences, taking advanced courses, and networking. My career, which I'd let drift while I tried to save a dying marriage, was suddenly soaring. My boss even commented on it. "Martin, you've been on fire lately," he told me. "The office complex is ahead of schedule, and the client is raving about your oversight." The bitter irony was almost funny. As my marriage dissolved, my professional life became unstoppable. Yet, it wasn't all forward motion. The nights were still agonizing. Despite all of Daniela's calculated cruelty, there were moments when the grief would hit me like a physical punch. It wasn't the loss of her I mourned, but the death of the hopeful future we had once planned. Early one morning, unable to sleep, I went downstairs for a glass of water. The house was dead quiet. The cameras were silently recording. As I stood there, I thought about the decade I had given to her. 10 years that now felt like an elaborate, cruel joke. When did we go wrong? Or had she always been this way, and I just refused to see it? My phone buzzed. It was a text from Patricia. "Up so late. Everything okay?" We had moved beyond just friendly chats at the restaurant. It was a lifeline. "Tough night," I replied. "The past just won't let me sleep. Coffee tomorrow before your shift? I know a great little place." I smiled slightly. "I'd love that." The next morning, we met at a small cafe. She showed up in her uniform, simple and genuine. She wasn't dripping in expensive clothes like Daniela. There was an honesty about her that I desperately needed. "So, what's keeping you up until 3 a.m.? She asked after we ordered. I hesitated, then decided to just lay it all out. "I'm about to file for divorce. My wife has been cheating on me, and now she's trying to take half of everything I own." "God, that's an awful situation," she said, her expression one of pure, simple empathy. "How long were you two together?" 7 years married. 10 years total. It's a long time to realize the person you're building a life with is a complete stranger. I poured out the whole story, the collapse, the betrayal, the fake therapist, the plotting. I told her how foolish I felt for not seeing it sooner. Patricia just listened. No interruptions, no judgment, no cheesy advice. When I was done, she simply said, "My ex cheated on me too. 3 years ago. I thought the world ended. I swore I'd never trust again. But eventually, you realize that their betrayal is a reflection of them, not a reflection of you." "How did you let go of the anger?" I asked. "Therapy, focusing on myself, surrounding myself with people who truly saw my worth, and then, eventually, forgiving him. Not for him, but for me, to set myself free." Her words stayed with me all day. Back at the house, Daniela was still operating on autopilot, blissfully unaware that her world was about to end. The cameras captured more calls with her lawyer, discussing how she planned to get the largest possible settlement. In one call, I caught a truly egregious lie. "And what if he claims he contributed more money? Daniela asked her attorney. Doesn't matter. Marriage is a partnership. Your domestic contributions count, even if they've been minimal lately. Plus, you sacrificed your design career to support his. That's a strong claim. The sheer nerve of her claiming domestic contribution for doing absolutely nothing was astounding. I recorded that segment and sent it straight to Dr. Vargas. Excellent, she replied. Every lie she tells, every distortion, just reinforces the pattern of bad faith we are building. Keep the footage coming. Ricardo was getting bolder, too. He started showing up not just during the day, but in the evenings. One night, I came home at 9 p.m., and his ugly little car was right in my driveway. It was a massive slap in the face. I walked inside and found them snuggled on the couch watching TV. Daniela had the grace to look startled for a second. Martin, this is Ricardo, my yoga instructor. We were, discussing some new poses for my back. Ricardo stood up, extending his hand with a creepy, fake smile. He was young, maybe 28, with that perfect yoga body physique. Nice to meet you, Martin. Daniela's told me a lot about you. I shook his hand, squeezing hard, and saw his smile flicker. How fascinating. Daniela never mentioned she had a personal instructor who made house calls at 9 at night. Must be a very exclusive service. Oh, I don't usually do this, Ricardo stammered. But Daniela's a very special client. I have no doubt about that, I said, my smile not reaching my eyes. I turned to Daniela. Isn't it a little late for stretching? Ricardo was just leaving, Daniela said quickly, desperate for him to vanish. Yes, I should go, Ricardo agreed, scrambling to grab his things. It was a pleasure, Martin. The pleasure was all mine, I replied, holding his gaze until he had to look away. After he was gone, Daniela immediately confronted me. You were so rude to him. He was just trying to help me with my back. Back problems? Funny, you never mentioned any back problems to me. There are a lot of things I don't mention anymore because we never talk, she argued, defensive. You're right, I conceded, letting a flicker of the truth show. We don't talk. We don't do anything like we used to. But that's all about to change very, very soon. Something in my tone must have scared her, because her face went pale. What is that supposed to mean? Nothing. I quickly corrected myself, putting the mask back on. Just that after the divorce, we'll both have very different lives. You with Ricardo, me with whoever. Is there someone else? She demanded, a strange mix of fear and jealousy in her voice. The idea of me moving on threatened her carefully laid plans. Does it matter? I challenged. You want a divorce, you don't love me, the marriage is dead. Why would you possibly care? She didn't answer. She just scowled and retreated to the guest room. I was left in the living room, the cameras recording every word. That night, I finally felt the power shift. Daniela no longer controlled the narrative. Her world of lies was about to crumble. The next few days were a silent countdown. Dr. Vargas had scheduled the official filing for Friday of the following week. We are striking first, and we are hitting hard, she promised. When your wife gets those papers, she'll know this is not the cozy little split she dreamed of. I spent those days preparing. I finalized my finances, put all my important papers in a safe deposit box, and even started looking for a new apartment. I couldn't stay in this house after everything. It was too tainted. On Wednesday, Patricia and I had dinner again. Our friendship was deep now. It felt safe, supportive, and real. Nervous about Friday? She asked. Terrified, I confessed, but also so relieved. This whole act is consuming me. It'll be a relief just to finally drop the bomb. Do you really think she still has no idea? None. Daniela is so convinced of her own cleverness that she can't fathom that someone like me, the boring, hardworking guy, could be 2 steps ahead. That's the tragic flaw in all narcissists. Patricia smiled. When I met you a month ago, you looked defeated. Now, I see someone strong, someone who's found his spine. Pain does that, I said. You let it destroy you, or you use it to build something unbreakable. I'm choosing the latter. I'm glad, she said, her voice warm. You deserve real happiness, Martin. You deserve someone who sees your true value. That night, driving home, I kept thinking about that idea. For years, I'd measured my worth by how much I could sacrifice for the marriage. But real worth, I was learning, was simply respecting myself enough to walk away from anything less than what I truly deserved. On Thursday night, Daniela casually announced her weekend plans. Ricardo and I are going to a spa in the mountains, she said, practically rubbing it in my face. I need to relax. This divorce stress has been intense. Of course, I replied gently. You enjoy your weekend. I have plans too. It was true. My plan involved watching her life explode when she was served the divorce papers on Friday afternoon, right as she was packing for her romantic, expense account getaway. Friday dawned clear and sunny, as if the world was smiling on me. I went to work, but my stomach was churning. At 3 p.m., I got the text from Dr. Vargas. The process server is on the way to your house. ETA 4 p.m. Are you ready? I've been ready for months, I typed back. At 4:07, my phone buzzed with the camera alert. Someone was at the front door. I opened the app. A man with a briefcase stood there. Daniela, visible in the living room, was zipping up her suitcase. She walked to the door, annoyed at the interruption. I watched her open it, exchange a few words, and then her face went instantly white when the man handed her a thick, official envelope. Daniela Mendez, you have been served, I heard the server say. You have 24 hours to respond. Daniela took the envelope with shaking hands. The man left, and she slowly closed the door. I watched her walk back to the couch, tear open the envelope, and start reading. With every page she turned, the color drained from her face. My phone started ringing. It was Daniela. I let it go to voicemail. She called again, and again. On the fourth call, I finally answered. What in the hell is this? She screamed, hysterical. A divorce petition with accusations of adultery, with photo evidence, with security cameras? This is insane. It's exactly what it looks like, Daniela. I replied, my voice calm as ice. The divorce you wanted. Only, it's going to happen on my terms, not yours. You can't accuse me of cheating without proof. Read the entire document, I suggested. You'll find pages and pages of proof. Videos, text messages, hotel receipts, all meticulously collected over the last few weeks. While you were plotting to rob me, I was building an irrefutable case against you. The silence on the line was deafening. Then, a broken whisper. How long have you known? Since the beginning. The night you told me you wouldn't cook or clean or sleep with me. That night, I checked your laptop and found all of it. The messages with Ricardo, the entire divorce plan. Martin, please, we can talk about this. Her voice switched instantly to fake pleading. I made a huge mistake. I know, but we can fix it. It doesn't have to end like this. You're right. It didn't have to end like this. I agreed. It should have ended with a simple, honest conversation. But you chose betrayal. You chose lies. You chose manipulation. Now, you get to live with the consequences of those choices. You can't take everything from me, she screamed, rage returning. I have rights. We were married for 7 years. Read page 12, I instructed her. It details your financial contribution to the marriage, 0 for the last 3 years, while you blew through $60,000 of my money. It also documents that the house, the car, and virtually all assets were bought solely with my premarital or individually acquired funds. You get to keep exactly what you brought into the marriage. This isn't fair, she sobbed. Fair? You want to talk about fairness? The controlled rage I'd banked for weeks finally boiled over. Was it fair to bring your lover into our home? Was it fair to plot to steal my livelihood while I worked myself sick to support you? Was it fair to call me oppressive when all I did was love you and provide for you? Please, Martin, she begged, her voice shrinking. Give me a chance. Ricardo means nothing. It was a stupid mistake. You're my husband. I was your husband, I corrected her. I'm not anymore. And as for your romantic spa weekend with Ricardo, I suggest you cancel it. You're going to need that money to hire a much better lawyer than the one you have, because mine is going to destroy you. I hung up on her mid-sentence. My heart was pounding like a drum. I felt a surge of pure, powerful satisfaction. After weeks of playing the role, of enduring her contempt, I had finally taken back my life. And the real battle was just beginning. The next 3 days were a deluge of desperate calls and texts from Daniela. I blocked her number, forcing all communication through the lawyers. Dr. Vargas was thrilled. Your wife is in full panic mode, she reported. Her lawyer has called me 4 times this weekend begging for a settlement conference. They know her position is indefensible. What are they offering? I asked, already knowing the answer wouldn't matter. Basically, she'll forfeit all claim to the assets if you agree not to make the adultery charges public. They want to bury this and move on. I gave a bitter laugh. Civilized. Now she wants civilized. What's our answer? We reject it completely. No negotiation. She takes our original terms. She leaves with nothing but her personal belongings. Or we go to court, and I present every single piece of video and audio evidence we have. That afternoon, I got home and found the predictable confrontation waiting for me. Ricardo was standing in my driveway, blocking my path. I got out of the car, ready for the inevitable fight. We need to talk, he demanded, his face tight with anger. We have nothing to discuss, Ricardo. All matters go through the lawyers. This is ridiculous, man, he shouted, stepping closer. Daniela is an absolute mess. She's crying nonstop. Do you have any idea what you're doing to her? What I'm doing to her? I stared him down. I didn't cheat. I didn't plot to commit fraud. I didn't turn my marriage into a lie. The marriage was dead, he countered. Daniela said you guys had no connection. I was just giving her what you couldn't. How incredibly noble of you, I sneered. Sleeping with a married woman in the house her husband pays for. Tell me, Ricardo, did you also know about her plan to take half of my money so you too could live happily ever after on my hard work? The look on his face confirmed it. He knew. Look, I'm just trying to mediate here. Daniela doesn't want a war. She just wants to move on peacefully. Then tell her to accept the terms of the divorce, I said, cold and hard. She leaves with what she walked in with. No house, no car, no money. She's free to start her life with you, but not one single cent of my money will fund it. That's cruel, man. She was with you for 7 years. She deserves something for that time. Deserves? Let me tell you what she deserves. She deserves the consequences of her choices. She deserves to face the reality that betrayal has a price. And she deserves to learn that people aren't ATMs you can use while you stab them in the back. Ricardo clenched his fists and took a step towards me. Don't you dare talk about her like that. I stood perfectly still. Go ahead. Hit me. Give me one more reason to add to the lawsuit. Physical assault would be a fantastic addition to the legal file. He froze. He could tell I was serious. He stepped back, his face burning red. This is not over, he hissed. Daniela isn't giving up. Tell Daniela I'm done with her theatrics. The documents are clear. She has 48 hours to accept, or we go straight to court. And Ricardo, one last piece of advice. I leaned in close as I passed him. When all this is over and Daniela moves in, I hope you enjoy supporting her. Because she is very expensive. Her weekly beauty habit costs $300. Her fancy lunches are $100 a pop. Her wardrobe needs constant updating for Instagram. I sincerely hope that little yoga instructor salary of yours can handle it. The look on his face was pure, dawning horror. He hadn't counted on any of that. He'd only seen the promise of my money. The thought of supporting Daniela himself was clearly a terrifying revelation. I walked into my house, leaving him standing defeated in the driveway. The cameras had, of course, recorded every second. Another victory. I checked the rest of the day's footage. Earlier, Daniela had been in the house, sobbing to her mother on the phone. Mom, don't you understand? He has everything. Videos, texts. My lawyer says I have no case. I'm going to lose it all. I heard her mother's muffled reply. No, I can't ask Dad for money. I already bled him dry last year and never paid him back. He's furious with me. More revelations. Daniela was a bottomless pit of need, draining everyone around her. What am I going to do? She cried, her voice raw. Ricardo has no money. His apartment is tiny. I can't live like that. I'm used to a certain standard of living. There it was, the naked, ugly truth. Her relationship with Ricardo wasn't about love. It was convenience, wrapped in a fantasy of my money. On Tuesday morning, I got the email from Daniela's lawyer. A long, wordy document requesting mediation. They were officially waving the white flag. I forwarded it to Dr. Vargas with one word. Worth it? Her reply came back immediately. Only if you want the therapeutic value of seeing her face to face one last time. Legally, we've won. Your decision. I thought about it all day. Part of me wanted to end it quietly. But the deeply wounded part of me, the man who was betrayed, manipulated, and humiliated, wanted that final confrontation. I wanted to look her in the eyes and watch the full weight of her consequences crash down on her. I accept the mediation, I wrote back. One session only. No agreement. We proceed directly to trial. Understood. I'll schedule it for Thursday. Get yourself ready. These moments are intense. Wednesday was a blur of work and mental preparation. Fernando noticed my tension and invited me out. I told him about the mediation. Are you sure you want to see her? He asked, worried. Every time I saw my ex, it felt like ripping the scab off a wound. I have to do this, I insisted. I need to look her in the eye and say all the things I've been holding back. And I need to see the look on her face when she realizes she lost everything. Just be careful, he warned. Desperate people do crazy things. Don't assume she's beaten just because you won the legal fight. His warning would turn out to be completely accurate. Thursday morning was cold and rainy, mirroring the grim mood I was carrying. I put on my best suit, determined to project total control. The mediation was set for 2 p.m. I arrived 15 minutes early with Dr. Vargas. She was carrying a briefcase that felt like a vault, stuffed with every piece of evidence we had. Remember the plan, she reminded me in the conference room. Stay calm. Do not engage emotionally. We have all the power here. Just hold the line. At 2 o'clock sharp, the door opened. Daniela's lawyer walked in, followed by Daniela. The shock of seeing her hit me instantly. The woman I'd married was gone. She had huge dark circles under her eyes. Her hair was pulled back, messy. No makeup. She was wearing wrinkled sweats, looking like she'd slept in them. She was already defeated. Our eyes met for a second. I saw a flicker of pleading, of utter desperation. I looked away immediately. I wouldn't let her pathetic victim act touch me. The mediator, an older, neutral man, began the formalities. We are here to seek a settlement in the divorce case of Mendez versus Rodriguez. Mrs. Mendez's counsel, please state your position. Daniela's lawyer cleared her throat. My client fully admits there were mistakes on both sides of the marriage. However, we feel Mr. Rodriguez's proposed terms are excessively punitive. 7 years of marriage warrants compensation, especially since my client forfeited her professional design career during that time. Dr. Vargas jumped in instantly. She left her career by her own choice, not at Mr. Rodriguez's request. He fully supported her desire to pursue other projects, which never materialized. Instead, Mrs. Mendez spent 3 years spending his money and contributing nothing to the household, financially or domestically. I contributed emotionally. Daniela interrupted, her voice tight with panic. I was there for Martin. I was his wife. You were there? I spoke for the first time, my voice raw and harsh. Where exactly were you, Daniela? You were in cheap hotel rooms with Ricardo, plotting with your lawyer about how to clean me out, telling your lover you'd be together soon using my money. Martin, please, she begged, tears starting to stream down her face. I made a terrible mistake. I know, but 7 years have to mean something. You can't just erase them. You're absolutely right, I said, leaning in. 7 years means something. It means 7 years of my life I wasted on someone who never valued me. 7 years of my hard work building a future that you planned to destroy. 7 years of loyalty that you shredded without a second thought. Mr. Rodriguez, the mediator cut in. I understand your frustration, but we need to remain productive. Are there any terms at all you would consider? I glanced at Dr. Vargas, who gave me a subtle nod. I was ready. There is one, and only one, set of terms I will accept. Daniela will leave this marriage with only what she brought into it. Her personal clothing, toiletries, books, and photos. Nothing else. No money, no car, no furniture, no assets acquired during the marriage. In exchange, I will agree not to pursue public adultery charges and keep the details of this divorce sealed. That is an utterly absurd offer. Daniela's lawyer exploded. Your client committed documented adultery multiple times on my client's property. Dr. Vargas responded with an icy stare. She spent over $60,000 without his knowledge. She actively plotted a fraudulent divorce to strip him of his premarital assets. And she contributed absolutely nothing to the marriage for years. On what legal or moral basis do you believe she is entitled to a single penny? A terrible silence fell over the room. Daniela was openly sobbing, her body shaking. For a split second, a small, weak part of me felt pity. Then I remembered the videos, the messages, the laughter. The pity vanished. I have nothing, Daniela wailed. No job, no money, nowhere to live. What am I supposed to do? Well, I suggested, without a shred of feeling, you could always ask Ricardo for help. Or get a job, like every other responsible adult. Or call your parents again, though I understand you've exhausted that source of funding, too. Her face went from pale to a deep, angry red. You're a monster. How can you be so unbelievably cruel? Cruel would be broadcasting every sordid detail of your affair to the world. Cruel would be making sure every friend and family member knew exactly who you are. Cruel would be pressing charges that could ruin your future job prospects. I am not being cruel, Daniela. I am being fair. Something you never once were with me. Mrs. Mendez, do you require a moment? The mediator asked. Daniela violently shook her head, wiping her eyes. When she spoke again, the pleading was gone. Her voice was pure venom. You know what, Martin? You were always so boring. So predictable. No passion, no fun. Work, sleep, work, sleep. That was your pathetic life. Ricardo made me feel alive in a way you never, ever could. At least with him, I felt something. I'm truly glad to hear that, I replied, forcing my voice to remain calm, though her words stung deep. Because now you can feel whatever you want with him, right there in his tiny little apartment, all on his yoga instructor salary. I hope those feelings are enough to make up for everything you're about to lose. Ladies and gentlemen, the mediator firmly declared, this mediation has clearly reached its limit. Mrs. Mendez, I strongly advise you to consider Mr. Rodriguez's offer. Given the mountain of evidence against you, it's significantly more generous than anything a judge is likely to award. You have 24 hours to accept. If you reject these terms, we are going to formal litigation. Daniela's lawyer started to protest, but Daniela silenced her with a shaky hand gesture. I understand, she whispered hollowly. She stood up, swaying slightly, and looked at me one last time. In her eyes, there was nothing left but raw, concentrated hatred. This is not the end, Martin, she said in a low, poisonous voice. You are going to regret this. Is that a threat? Dr. Vargas instantly asked, snapping to attention. Because if it is, I am documenting it right now. It's not a threat, Daniela's lawyer quickly cut in, grabbing her arm. She's just expressing frustration. Let's go, Daniela. The two women rushed out, leaving the mediator, Dr. Vargas, and me in the strained silence. Well, the mediator commented after a beat. That was certainly intense. I've done hundreds of these, but few are this personal. Do you think she'll accept? I asked Dr. Vargas as she packed her files. She has no viable option, she replied simply. Her lawyer knows they have no case. This is your most generous offer. If we go to court, Daniela could end up facing significant financial liability for her fraudulent spending. She's trapped. That night, I sat alone in the quiet house. Daniela had moved out to stay with a friend, according to her lawyer. For the first time in months, the house felt peaceful. The tension was gone. The lies were gone. My phone rang. It was Patricia. How did it go? She asked, her concern palpable. Brutal, I said, a wave of exhaustion washing over me. But it's finally over. How are you feeling, really? I honestly don't know. Relieved, Definitely. But also sad. Not for losing Daniela, but for having lost the perfect life I thought we had. That is completely normal, Martin, Patricia said gently. You're grieving the fantasy of the marriage, not the reality of it. It's a process. We talked for an hour, and her voice was a soothing balm. The next day at 5 p.m., an email popped up from Daniela's lawyer. Subject line, acceptance of terms. Daniela had surrendered. The divorce would proceed entirely on my terms. In 30 days, I would be officially, completely free. I should have felt pure, unadulterated victory. But what I felt was something complex, a quiet satisfaction, mixed with profound melancholy. Justice had been served, yes. But the emotional price was still being calculated. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The nightmares, where Daniela and Ricardo laughed while burning down my life, finally stopped. The future was terrifyingly uncertain, yet utterly full of potential. And for the first time in a very long time, that future belonged only to me. The 30 days before the final legal signing passed in a strange blend of quiet liberation and necessary adjustment. Daniela stuck to the agreement. She came by in 3 separate, silent trips to gather her few belongings. I made sure I was nowhere near the house. I couldn't face her. I just wanted it all to be finished. Dr. Vargas kept me updated. Everything is proceeding smoothly, she told me. The final documents will be ready next week. Then, after the mandatory 60-day waiting period, you're officially a free man. And Daniela? I asked, surprised that I still cared enough to ask. Is she causing any trouble? None at all. She's cooperating. Her lawyer mentioned she moved in with her sister downtown. Apparently, Ricardo dumped her. I was stunned. Ricardo left her? Dr. Vargas gave an ironic, knowing smile. It seems when he realized Daniela was bringing zero money to the table, along with an extremely expensive lifestyle, he decided the relationship was suddenly less attractive. I hear he's already pursuing a new yoga student, a recent divorcee with much better alimony. The poetic justice of it was almost too perfect. Daniela had destroyed a stable marriage for an affair that turned out to be exactly as selfish and opportunistic as she was. Ricardo never loved her. He only loved the idea of her as his easy ticket to a better life. When that ticket was canceled, his love vanished. I'm not surprised, I admitted. Ricardo was always a shark. Takes one to know one, I guess. There's more, Dr. Vargas continued. Daniela is actively looking for a job. Apparently, the sister gave her an ultimatum, get a job or get out. The harsh reality is finally hitting her. During that month of transition, my own life unexpectedly exploded with opportunity. The major office complex project I was managing was wrapped up 2 weeks early and under budget. My boss was so impressed, he offered me a huge promotion, a 40% salary hike. Martin, your work lately has been truly exceptional, he told me. I want you to head our new special projects division. These will be our biggest, most complex jobs. Are you interested? Interested? It was the opportunity I'd been chasing for a decade. The very position Daniela used to sneer I'd never get because I was too technical, not political enough. Turns out, when you stop trying to save a toxic marriage and actually focus on your work, the results speak for themselves. My social life was booming too. Fernando and I had become tight friends, working out 4 times a week. I started going out with his friends on Friday nights, meeting a whole new circle of people who had survived their own brutal divorces. It's the club no one wants to join, Fernando joked over beers one night. But once you're in, the happily married folks will never understand you. Understand what? I asked. That your own self-worth is the most important relationship you have. That being completely alone is infinitely better than being with the wrong person. That you deserve fundamental respect, and anything less than that is a total waste of your time. His words resonated in my soul. For 7 years, I had accepted emotional breadcrumbs from Daniela. Now, for the first time, I was learning to prioritize myself without feeling a shred of guilt. And then there was Patricia. Our friendship deepened naturally. It evolved from casual restaurant talks to dinner invitations, Sunday morning walks, and marathon phone calls about nothing and everything. No pressure, no rush. Just 2 people genuinely enjoying each other's company. Do you ever think about dating again? She asked me one afternoon as we walked through a park. Spring had just arrived, the air fresh and full of promise. Eventually, I answered honestly. But I need to heal fully first. I need to figure out who Martin is outside of that marriage. That's smart, Patricia said. Most people just bounce from one disaster to the next. They never stop to process the pain, so they just repeat the mistakes. What about you? I asked. Are you thinking about dating? She laughed softly. Eventually, yes. But like you, I'm taking my time. Besides, she added, giving me a playful nudge, I have a pretty cool friend who keeps me well entertained. Oh really? Tell me more about this amazing guy, I joked. Well, he's an architect, works way too much, had absolutely terrible taste in wives, but I hear his choices are improving. We laughed, a real, lighthearted laugh. In that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years with Daniela, a complete sense of ease. I could just be myself, without walking on eggshells or worrying about her reaction to every word. A week before the final divorce paperwork was signed, I got an unexpected call. Unknown number. I almost let it go, but something made me answer. Martin. It was Daniela's voice. It sounded tiny and fragile. Daniela, I replied cautiously. You know all communication must go through the attorneys. I know. I just needed to talk to you one last time. Please, don't hang up. I sighed, walking to the window. 2 minutes, that's all you get. I want to apologize, she began, her voice trembling. A real, sincere apology. For everything. The affair, the plotting, the lies. You were right. I was selfish, I was cruel, and I took advantage of you in ways that make me sick now. It's fine, I said. Her apology didn't change anything, but I accepted it. I appreciate you saying that. No, it's not fine, she insisted. None of this is. I destroyed a good life because I was bored, because I wanted a cheap thrill. Ricardo made me feel special for a minute, but it was all just surface-level BS. He never actually knew me, not the way you did. Daniela, where are you going with this? I asked, feeling my patience fray. I guess I need you to know that I finally see what I threw away. I had a good man who loved me, who provided everything, who was never cruel or unfaithful, and I tossed it all out for a fantasy that evaporated the second things got hard. Ricardo left you, didn't he? I asked, though I knew the answer. Yes, she admitted, shame laced in her voice. The second he realized I was coming out of the marriage with nothing, he suddenly wasn't ready for a commitment. He found someone else in 2 weeks. Someone with resources. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and surprisingly, it was true. I felt no joy in her pain, just a distant pity for the disaster she'd made of her life. Don't be sorry. I deserve it. It's karma, I guess. She paused for a long time. Martin, I know this is insane, but is there any possibility, even a tiny one, that we could try again? Not right now, I know it's too soon. But maybe, eventually, after I've proved I can change. There it was. The desperate question I knew she was holding on to. No, Daniela, I said, my voice firm and final. There is zero chance of that. Please, just hear me out, she begged. I am getting real help now. I'm in actual therapy, not with that quack who told me you were the problem. I'm working at a coffee shop. It's pathetic, but it's a start. I'm learning to stand on my own 2 feet, not to depend on anyone else for my happiness. I truly am happy for you that you're making those changes, I said sincerely. But you're doing it for the wrong reason. If you think this path leads back to me, you're wrong. You have to do this for yourself. To become a better human being, not to win back what you lost. So it's really over? She whispered, heartbroken. There's nothing left? It was over the second you invited Ricardo into our house. It was over when you plotted to destroy me financially. It was over the moment you chose betrayal over honesty. Daniela, you broke something that simply cannot be fixed. And honestly, I don't want to fix it. I have moved on. Is there someone else? Her voice was laced with pain and immediate jealousy. That is no longer your concern, I replied. But even if I were completely alone for the rest of my life, the answer would still be no. What we had is dead, and it needs to stay buried. I understand, she breathed. I just needed to hear it from you. Truly, I am sorry I hurt you. You were a good husband, and you never deserved any of this. You're right. I didn't deserve it, I said. But you actually did me a favor. You showed me exactly who you were and gave me the fire I needed to build a much better life without you. So, in a bizarre way, thank you. I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse, she said with a shaky, bitter laugh. Probably both, I admitted. Daniela, I genuinely wish you the best. I hope you find peace. I hope you learn from your mistakes and build a life you can be proud of, but I won't be a part of it. Goodbye, Martin, she said softly. Goodbye, Daniela. I hung up and just stared at my phone. I waited for the rush of emotion, anger, sadness, anything. But I felt only one thing, profound peace. Closure. That conversation was the final, necessary cut I didn't know I needed to make. The day of the final signing arrived under a beautiful, blue, cloudless sky. I met Dr. Vargas at her office. Daniela and her lawyer arrived 15 minutes later, looking professional but utterly subdued. The actual signing was anticlimactic and sterile. Page after page, initials, signatures. The mediator simply supervised. Daniela and I didn't speak a single word. We were strangers finalizing a business contract. When the last document was signed, the mediator announced, "That's it. The documents are filed. After the standard waiting period, your divorce will be final." Daniela stood up immediately, gathering her things quickly. Her lawyer whispered something, urging her out the door. But Daniela stopped and turned to me one last time. "Be happy, Martin," she said simply. Then she was gone. The soft click of the door closing behind her sounded like a gunshot. Final, definitive. "How does it feel?" Dr. Vargas asked. "Like the end of the most painful chapter of my life," I replied, "but also like the beginning of something truly great." That night, I celebrated my freedom in a way Daniela would have instantly hated. I had Fernando, Patricia, and a few new friends over for a casual dinner. We cooked together, something I never did with Daniela, who treated cooking like a maid's job. We laughed, we told stories, and we just enjoyed each other's genuine company. A toast, Fernando yelled, raising his beer. To Martin. He survived one of the ugliest divorces I've ever seen and came out not just alive, but thriving. To new beginnings and much, much better choices. To better choices, we all echoed, clinking bottles. Later, after everyone had left, Patricia stayed behind to help me clean up. It was a wonderful night, she said, washing the dishes. You've surrounded yourself with good people, Martin. People who truly care. I know. It's night and day compared to Daniela's crowd. Those friendships were all fake, all about appearances. This is real. It is real, Patricia confirmed, setting down the sponge. And you deserve real relationships, whether they're just friendships or something more. I looked at her, drawing a plate carefully. Patricia, there's something I need to ask you. Yes. Once the divorce is officially finalized, would you do me the honor of having dinner with me? A real date, not just as friends. She smiled, that radiant, genuine smile I'd fallen for. I'd absolutely love that. But Martin, only if you're really, truly ready. I won't be a rebound. You are not a rebound, I promised her. You are the person who showed me that good people still exist. Someone who saw me at my absolute lowest and still chose to stick around. Someone who inspires me to be a better man. Then yes, she said, stepping closer. Definitely yes. 2 months later, the official divorce decree arrived in the mail. It was a single, simple piece of paper, anticlimactic, yet representing everything. Freedom, a clean slate, the chance to build a life based on real honesty. I heard through friends that Daniela finally got a full-time job at a small design firm. She wasn't making much, but she was working, supporting herself for the first time in years. A small part of me truly hoped she was doing the deep personal work she'd mentioned. Not for me, but for her own sake. As for me, my life took off. The promotion brought new challenges and a new sense of pride. Patricia and I started dating officially. We took it slow, savoring every moment. No rushing, no pressure, just two people learning to trust again after being badly broken. One Saturday, months after the divorce, I was cleaning out the basement and found a box of old photos. I hesitated, worried about the memories, but I opened it anyway. Inside were pictures of Daniela and me from the past. Our wedding, when we looked so young and full of hope. Vacations where we smiled, completely unaware of the poison growing between us. I looked at the photos with a huge emotional distance I never thought possible. The people in those pictures felt like strangers. I recognized my own face, but the man in those photos, the one who accepted emotional abuse and called it love, that man was dead. I closed the box. I didn't throw them away. That felt childish. They were part of my story, but they no longer defined my present or my future. My phone chimed with a text from Patricia. Still coming to dinner with my family? My mom is so excited to finally meet you. I smiled, texting back. On my way. Should I bring wine? Just your handsome smile. Everything else is covered. As I drove to Patricia's parents' house, I thought about that terrible Tuesday night when Daniela declared she wouldn't cook, clean, or sleep with me. That night had been the bitter, necessary ending to something toxic. But it was also the explosive, glorious beginning of something better. Daniela had wanted to show me what life looked like when she stopped prioritizing me. She succeeded. But in doing so, she showed me something infinitely more valuable. What life looked like when I started prioritizing myself. And that life was better than I ever dreamed. A year after the divorce, my life felt perfectly balanced. The house, once a silent war zone, was a warm, peaceful home full of laughter and real connection. Patricia and I were taking things slow, but we were absolutely solid. Our relationship was built on a foundation of respect, honesty, and genuine reciprocity. You know, I confessed to her over coffee one morning. I still can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually grateful to Daniela for what she did. Patricia raised an eyebrow. Wow, that's true healing. Don't get me wrong, it was horrific, and I'll never forgive the betrayal. But it forced me awake. It forced me to set boundaries and standards for how I deserve to be treated. Without that devastating pain, I would have just kept sleepwalking. And you never would have met me, Patricia added with a smile. Exactly. In the most twisted way possible, her worst betrayal led me directly to my best life. That weekend, Fernando threw a party. All the amazing friends I'd made were there. It was a social circle of genuine support, not shallow appearances. Martin, over here, Fernando called, pulling me toward the grill. We need to recognize this moment. It is exactly 1 year since you signed the final divorce papers. We're not celebrating an ending, man. We're celebrating the start of your real life. He handed me a wrapped gift. It was an engraved plaque. It read, "Sometimes losing what you thought you wanted leads you to find what you truly need. To new beginnings and better judgment. Your chosen family." A lump rose in my throat. "You guys are ridiculous," I choked out, blinking back tears. "And you know we love being ridiculous," Fernando replied, grinning. At work, my success continued. My reputation was soaring. I never saw you so focused when you were married, my boss admitted during a review. It's like a weight has been lifted. It has, I told him. When your home life is chaos, you can't be your best. Now that I have peace, I can finally focus on my career. One Thursday, an unexpected email landed in my inbox. It was from Daniela. Subject, thanks and apologies. I hesitated, my cursor hovering. Finally, I opened it. Martin, I know you don't want to hear from me, and I totally understand if you delete this. But my therapist suggested I write this as a final step in my healing process. First, I want to apologize again for all the pain. Not just the affair or the divorce plot, but for years of taking you for granted, for not valuing your sacrifice, for always putting my selfish whims first. I was cruel, blind, and never realized how incredibly lucky I was to have you. Second, I want to thank you. I know it sounds crazy, but by holding your ground, by refusing to let me win, by forcing me to face the real-world consequences, you did me the biggest favor. For the first time, I had to be an adult. I had to work, to be responsible. It was terrifying, but I am finally, genuinely growing. I have a steady job now. It's not a glamorous design studio. I'm starting from the bottom, but I earned it myself. I share an apartment, and even though it's tiny compared to what we had, I am so proud because I pay for it with my own money. I'm single and planning to stay that way. I need to learn how to exist without seeking validation or financial security from other people. That's my real work now. I don't expect a reply. I just needed you to know that I finally understand everything I lost, that I deeply regret the person I was, and that I am honestly trying to be better. You were a good husband, Martin, and you deserve all the happiness in the world. Find someone who truly values you. With sincere apologies and gratitude. Daniela. I read it twice. There was an undeniable honesty in this apology that was missing from all the others. It seemed Daniela was finally on a path of genuine change, not to win me back, but because she finally had no choice. I showed Patricia the email that night. What do you think? I think she finally gets it, Patricia said. And I'm happy for her. Not for us. That ship sailed ages ago, but I'm glad she's finding her way. Should I reply? I don't know. Part of me says acknowledge her growth, but the other part says the kindest thing you can do for her is let her move on without you in her life at all. Both are valid, I agreed. After careful thought, I sent a brief reply. Daniela, I appreciate your honesty, and I'm genuinely glad to hear you're focused on working on yourself. Personal growth is the most important thing any of us can do. I wish you the best on your journey. Martin. Short, kind, final. I sent it, and that chapter of my life closed forever. 2 weeks later, Patricia and I were at a new restaurant. Martin, she asked, looking vulnerable. We've been together for almost a year now. I know you just got out of a terrible marriage, and I would never rush you, but I need to know where we're going. Do you see a real future with me? Her honesty touched me deeply. I reached across the table and took her hands. Patricia, I love you. And yes, absolutely, I see a future with you. But I have to be honest, the thought of marriage still scares me a little. Not because I don't trust you, but because the scars from the last one are still healing. I totally understand, she said, her relief visible. I don't need a ring tomorrow. I just needed to know we're on the same path, that this is a serious, long-term thing. It is, 100%, I assured her. In fact, I've been thinking, how would you feel about moving in together? I know we said slow, but it feels like the right step. Her eyes lit up. Are you serious? You're ready for that? More than ready. This time, it's different. I'm choosing this with my eyes wide open. I know who you are. We're building something based on truth and mutual respect. There are no illusions here, just real love. 6 months later, Patricia officially moved in. But first, I did something symbolic. I hired designers and completely overhauled every room. New colors, new furniture, new art. I erased every last trace of Daniela and the failed marriage. It's a completely new house, Patricia said the day her boxes arrived. That was the point, I smiled. New chapter, new space, new memories. And the memories we made were beautiful. Cooking together, talking for hours, supporting each other through tough times. It was the partnership a marriage is supposed to be, full of giving and receiving in equal measure. A year after she moved in, I proposed. Not because I felt obligated, but because I truly wanted to. I wanted to declare my commitment to the extraordinary woman who showed me what real love looked like. You don't have to answer right now, I told her, kneeling with the ring. I know I failed once, but you aren't Daniela, and I am not the man I was. I've grown. I'm ready to build something real and lasting with you. Patricia laughed, cried, and said, yes, all at once. We were married 6 months later. A small, intimate ceremony with just our closest family and friends. Fernando was my best man, of course, giving a speech about how I'd finally learned to pick him. There was no extravagance, no trying to impress anyone. Just two people committing to each other with open eyes and whole hearts. The last I heard of Daniela was 3 years after the divorce. Friends told me she was engaged to an accountant she met at her job. He wasn't rich or glamorous, but he treated her well, and apparently, she'd finally learned to value kindness over flash. I was genuinely happy for her, not out of residual feeling, but because even her story deserved a happy, normal ending. Sitting in my home office one afternoon, with Patricia working on her laptop nearby, I reflected on the entire journey. From that terrible Tuesday when Daniela declared her independence, to this moment of complete peace. Daniela's betrayal was devastating. It broke me. But from those shattered pieces, I had forged something stronger and truer. I learned lessons about self-respect, about boundaries, about seeing red flags for what they were. I learned that being alone is infinitely better than being with the wrong person. And I learned that real love is consistent, honest action, not empty words. Patricia showed me that love every single day. "What are you thinking about?" Patricia asked, noticing my faraway look. "Just how far we've come," I replied. "How sometimes, the absolute worst thing that happens to you is exactly what you needed to find your real path. The universe has a sixth sense of humor like that." "I'm grateful for that twisted sense of humor," Patricia said, smiling, "because it led me to you." And it led me to you. That night, getting ready for bed, I got one last text from Fernando. "Did you hear? Your ex is getting married next week. Thought you'd want the update." I showed the text to Patricia. "How does that make you feel?" she asked carefully. "Honestly, nothing. That part of my life feels like a different lifetime, lived by a different person. I wish her well, but it changes nothing in my present or future." "That, my love, is the sound of true healing," Patricia whispered. She was right. The pain, the anger, the betrayal, it was all gone. In its place was wisdom, strength, and a profound appreciation for the life I had meticulously built from the ashes of a failed marriage. Daniela said she didn't have to cook, clean, or sleep with me. She thought she was freeing herself from obligation while keeping the comfort. Instead, she freed herself from a marriage she didn't value, and she freed me from a life where I was constantly underestimated. By showing her what life was like when I was no longer her priority, she taught me the ultimate lesson. My own dignity must always be my first priority. And only then can I build a real, healthy love with someone else. 5 years after the divorce, Patricia and I were expecting our first child. We were nervous, excited, and completely ready for this next great adventure. It was a future that never would have happened if Daniela hadn't chosen to betray us. Sometimes, the most painful ending is actually the glorious beginning of the best chapter of your life. You just have to be brave enough to turn the page. Did Martin's final, calculated act of revenge truly offer him closure? Or did it just teach Daniela a lesson that a more simple, honest approach could have achieved without the extended emotional trauma? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments.